Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I would like to call to order the December 3rd, 2025 Budget Subcommittee meeting. We will start with grants and gifts.
Thank you. To start, we're actually do an introduction. Christine O'Connor wants to come up to the table, please.
I thought I was under athletics.
No, we're pushing you right.
Yeah, but we can go into that too.
All right.
Come back to the others. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to welcome Christine. I think this is a first official time at a table. Christine O'Connor came to us. We had the retirement of Betsy Harris. So we kind of repositioned that role a little bit. So what Christine O'Connor is really working with all of our team to work on really program coordinating development in the district. Christine jumped right out ahead. We had the idea of the banner, the athletic banner program. Christine took our idea and is sprinting with it. She's actually supporting some of the people who took on the Dreamcatcher. So right away, right out of the gate, really supporting our athletic program. Some of the things, a preview of some of the things we'll be looking at as a program development is the high school. You'll hear about that tomorrow night. So one of the high school grants is with Quincy College. So we probably want to try to find a community sponsor and a partnership as we move forward with that. So there's a lot of things that a little bit different for Christine than it was with Betsy Harris, but we're so excited to have her. And like I said, she is already off and running.
Thank you very much for being here tonight, too.
And in addition to
Yes.
so a lot with gifts and fundraising. So if it's okay, if we could flow into, we'll come back to the fair share and the Allison Trust. Maybe we can go into the athletic sponsorship too.
Sure.
So do you guys have updated number for where we're at right now?
37,300 as of yesterday, which does not include, there should be a $500 check coming from Bethany Builders for the deck challenge.
Okay, great.
But that will go into the same fund, I assume.
And so that's mostly, if not all, the banner program. And then, as we also mentioned, the Dreamcatcher race was this past Thanksgiving Day morning. So the proceeds will be coming to us in terms of a gift. So we'll account for that. But what it's allowed us to do, so it covers anyone that has struggling to pay user fees. As we've always done in the past, is we always address those needs, and we've been utilizing the revolving fund to do that. So because we now have this new revenue stream of the banner program, we've also been able to do this year at the high school. We installed a new huddle camera at the stadium. And then the other thing we're working on right now is anyone who remembers being at graduation last year, a new PA system for the stadium. Brand new PA system. We're just finalizing. We've got a couple of quotes in finalizing procurement, but the goal is to have that PA system upgraded in the springtime, in time, if not sooner, for graduation. So just, I guess, another benefit of this program is it allows the district to do things that we should be doing with our dollars, like improving the spaces.
And just to clarify that, those will be funded by the sponsorship program, those two projects?
The projects, they're indirectly because we're able to utilize the revolving fund, one-time funds to do things that we need to do with terms of maintenance and improving the grounds. So the banners we've received is going towards covering user fees for students who are struggling.
We keep the revolving fund.
Yeah, because we always, as we say, if families are struggling to pay fees, we work with families. It's just a different funding source. It's the banner program funding source, which is a good thing. So that's why we're doing this.
Okay. Well, thank you for all the work you're doing. This is great.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions from the community? Great. Thank you.
Nice and easy.
Perfect.
Thanks, Christine.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Back to the fair share, the grants and gifts. So fair share earmarks, we're one step closer. We've actually got our grant award notice for both earmarks. We had to update our 5-year master agreement with DESE to be able to do these grants. They're earmarks through the state, part of the fair share millionaires tax, and they come through DESE to us. So one was we talked about last time, the free period program for feminine products at our schools and schools across the state. That grant is for $750,000. We get for sponsoring the program and administering the program, we get to equates as basically covers the cost of the salary of two staff members for the year, which is a nice supplement to our budget. The other fair share earmark is for CTE. It's $300,000, and it's to make improvements to CTE spaces. So our CTE director, Sam DePina, has done a great job of working with the different programs at the high school and prioritizing and making sure he's, spreading that wealth up amongst the different programs at the high school.
Was anything that we had on our capital list, anything from CTE, will anything fall off that list?
It will, yes. So it's a great question. We maintain that capital improvement plan for CTE. Sam's updating it every year. We actually visited culinary last week. And so that's the list that we have of things that in priority order need to be addressed. And then we have the funding sources. So it could be this earmark, it could be town funds, it could be capital. So he's still finalizing what that list is. We recently had some issues in carpentry with the dust collector. So we think we don't have to do a full replacement. It's just a pretty good repair. So it's still kind of finalizing that. And then culinary and some of the other labs we talked about.
Allied Health.
Allied Health. So basically that list, we take that list and then we have a funding source like this come in, we just have to knock things off that list.
That's great. And we'll get a report back of that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Other questions from the committee? Moving on to audits and reports. Are you good with?
Still under, no, Alice. Making notes to myself. Allison trust bequest, we got notification through town solicitor, town legal of a donor who through their trust is donating a sum of money to Weymouth Public Schools High School Scholarship Fund. We don't know that amount yet. The reason being is the assets are in bonds, and so the bonds have to be liquidated, and then whatever it settles at. We're hearing something around 75,000 maybe. We're not certain yet. But we did talk, was it last week, Mel?
Yeah, to Martha, one of the cousins.
Yep. We talked with one of the cousins who is the trustee. And he was involved with cranberry bogs back in the day. So we did meet with him and talked about what the intended use would be, which was CTE, someone in CTE.
Yeah, going into the trades potentially. Any students that might need a little bit more support at the post-secondary, definitely pursuing some sort of post-secondary education. And then we'll meet with the high school team to talk a little bit about the criteria and how much money is it, 5 scholarships per year, 1 per year, larger. So we'll work through that when we see the amount.
Like a trade school or
Yeah.
Yep.
in school.
Could be that after high school. So, and kind of the process here, it's going to council first. So I want to give the school committee a heads up. It's going to council to get acknowledged as a gift to the town. It's designated for schools. Superintendent and I met with and got the designation down of what it's going to be. Now we just need to know the amount. Once we know the designation, once we know the amount, we'll bring it to school committee.
Right.
Just to acknowledge. It might be worth something to talk about in the near future of we acknowledge gifts twice a year per your policy, but is there a threshold where you want to acknowledge a gift?
Yeah, I think so.
So it might be something to talk about.
Something that
Sizable.
Yeah. And it was mentioned Monday night at town council too. So
Great.
it was acknowledged there. Any other questions? Now we can move on to audit and reports.
All right, audits and reports. The end of year report for DESI has been submitted. We did get our annual notice from them saying, hey, you got to get it in. If you don't get it in by January, we could withhold Chapter 70 funds, circuit breaker funds. But I'm happy to report that the report is submitted. The chair and superintendent, myself, just signed off on it. And that's been submitted to DESI. And then DESI takes all the district data, compiles it, segments it, reports it out. So that's for fiscal 25. So this past June 30. And then, as is all the case with all of our reports, it'll go through an audit next year sometime. And then anything that we need to amend, we have up to 2 years to amend. But this year, as we mentioned, just turnover with the town's municipal finance office, and we've seen it with audits, just the turnover in auditors. We can do better, and we will do better on submitting this report. It's technically due in October, so but I don't think Weymouth's alone in kind of really prioritizing things to do in a day-to-day, and then, yep, Desi, we hear you, and get that report submitted before it starts to impact us. So like I said, we did get the letter, and but immediately after we get an email saying you're good, you've submitted it.
Great. Thank you.
Just want to be open and honest with you guys on that.
Moving on to OCR settlement.
Yes, so I think Kelly should have blogged it. This was Office of Civil Rights from 2021. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it was a complaint filed with the Office of Civil Rights, and there was an agreement made, and the agreement was to reimburse the family for the cost of after-school programming for a period of time. So we've actually cut that check for roughly, I think it's $2,300. But as the case with any settlement, the school committee needs to be notified of settlements we make on behalf of the school committee, and so that's why we're bringing it here. And the funding source, just so you're
Just gonna ask that.
so the funding source is our Champions revenue.
My second question is, during that investigation,
Mhm.
or I don't want to call it investigation or look at, does that mean the Weymouth Public Schools is liable to support those students, or is Champions still liable? Because the reason was that they could not be supported in the after-school program, or could not be supported in the after-school program. So is OCR saying Weymouth Public Schools is responsible?
So they didn't outright say that. I think it's always gonna be case by case. But they are saying that because it's a program that operates in our school that we promote, that there is a share responsibility by us. So part of the remedy was also that we make sure that Champions is aware of their responsibilities contractually, which we reminded them of that, had a great conversation with Champions and sent them in writing that. And then also that we have designated staff in the district, basically the principals at each site. So at each site, the principal is making sure they're working with Champions on making sure we are supporting the needs of our students in the program.
Because unfortunately, this isn't new. This is going back to 2021, and even before that. How are we ensuring that these settlements are not going to get larger, one, and two, more impactful to the student? Because that's also an issue that I feel is.
And I feel like that was like right as
Yeah.
it came into the district.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. So making sure we continue to work with the site directors to the principals, but also the area manager, Lori Lee, for Champions. I think they cited, I think what they used as a template for agreement was from a case down in Washington, D.C. So for us, it was, I think the three components was identifying who our staff is in district, what works with Champions at the buildings, principal, making sure that we remind Champions of their legal obligation, which we did, and then paying a reimbursement up to a certain amount to the family, which we have done.
So in the past, our reporting structure, if something had happened with after school with Champions, we would go to Champions, right? So if this arises again, that parent is supposed to go to Champions, and if they don't feel that it's resolved there, do they go to the building principal?
Correct.
Okay.
And this was prior to Champions being in our buildings, right?
It was right when they
Right,
started.
it was
Right.
post-COVID,
Yeah.
kind of like the coming in.
But it's continued
Yeah.
to this day. So it's not like hasn't been resolved. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. So if a parent, I mean, let me think about how to word this. Like, is Champions allowed to tell a parent that their child cannot return without an educational support professional that the parent has to pay for?
I don't,
No, no.
yeah,
Because they're
But legally,
legally, no, but I don't know what they're telling.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know what if there's instances of they're telling something different.
there has been.
Yeah.
So
So I
that's,
would,
Have the parents come to us or the principals?
no, because they're always told champions are separate, that's kind of when OCR came in to play.
Yeah.
Because we were always told that it is separate, because legally it is a
Right,
separate entity.
right.
It's not connected.
It's separate, but yet there's a relationship there,
Right.
so we would want to understand.
right. So I think that's where the principals would come into that picture
Okay.
there.
Yeah,
Okay,
And then if, it's not getting resolved at building level,
escalate it.
escalate it.
and just, also like when, the schools have like the enrichment club, same thing, like if a child has an IEP and they have, a one-to-one support, the school is required to
Mhm.
provide that.
Right,
with them.
sure.
So just want to make
Right,
sure that.
100%, yeah. Yeah, so that's, we're saying like if that's not happening at Champion, we wouldn't know unless the parent, the principal or us, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Moving on to contracts and procurement.
Okay, contracts and procurement. We've requested through the mayor's office, as we've done for a number of years now, to go to council to request approval to enter into a 5-year contract with a transportation company. Just for those who don't know, legally, we can do 3-year contracts. Anything more than 3-year contracts have to be approved by school committee and town council. So we're going to council for that approval. And then we will go start to solicit through IFB. Say again? IFB, invitation for bid for basically our big yellow bus transportation. We have a current contract with First Student that expires the end of this school year. So we're doing this now to get ahead of the planning. It's a pretty heavy lift to do an IFB. And so we want to get that done. So we have something in place for July 1. The last year of the First Student contract is just above 2.5 million. And so we'll see what the bids come in at as we go through the process in the spring. But the first step is to get approval to even entertain a 5-year contract. Once we have that, we'll keep the committee updated on the IFB process.
When did you say you wanted to get the IFB? I'm sure you have like a
February.
timeline. February.
We didn't have very many people the last time put in bid.
Yeah,
Which I'll,
You think that's gonna change?
no. To be honest, I don't. There is and I'll touch more when we get into what the IG's office is doing about transportation across the state. So, but to answer your question, it'll be very few, if not one. But a district can always reserve the right to pull it back in-house. Brockton did it. I don't think it went too well, but
How many buses do we?
30.
Yeah, 30.
And we've done the analysis. It's not really, I mean, unless
Are they full? Are the buses full every day?
are they full every day? No.
Like-
So each level,
What is there a bus route that just doesn't have a lot of kids on it?
and I think I know, maybe know where you're going with this. So the 30 buses is more about the size of Weymouth and the number of routes we have, more than the capacity of the buses.
Yeah.
So we have 3 levels. We have primary, middle, and high school. So on any given day, you could have certainly capacity in those buses. But we've struggled to reduce the number of buses in the contract because they'd be doing much bigger. So instead of they'd be late. Yeah.
Sorry.
and it would delay Chapman and the elementary
Yeah.
there.
And I think we already had that issue, didn't we? And we addressed it a little bit by.
We had 2 more buses added because of the private school one.
This year we picked up, so yeah, so of the 30, several are for the parochial.
Right.
But we've been able to pull one back this year. And when we do the IFB, we're entertaining, we're going to get more data, but we're looking at potentially expanding to maybe 31 or 32 buses. Because if you remember the committee, we talked about last year, the idea of the staggered start times at school. So without doing that and just focusing on adding more buses, that's the way you address the South Weymouth problem of time is ideally, you probably want another bus or two in that quote, in that bid. So we have, maybe 31 or 32 versus 30, but we don't have enough data yet to tell us to do that. So we're working with First Student to provide us data now so we can develop a good.
And we pick up the
bid.
tab for parochial transportation.
We do. We have to legally, we have to, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, can you come up? I can't hear you. I can't hear you that well. You yell at me all the time.
Well, the microphone doesn't pick up.
This is the bus thing you talked about it last year. The other thing, but last year we've been given forecast for year 27. I think you need to talk about it this year. That is eliminating parochial bus transportation. Newton did it. I think it was Newton. Pulled out of there, and they saved significant amounts of money. How many buses, Brian, did you save? I know, that's what we have to do the research. But
Yeah, we did. I can't remember exactly how Newton did it, but I think it was, you have to provide for the parochial, what you're providing for the public. I think they eliminated, there's something with their pay rider program. I'll look into it again.
Right. I had done the research last year. I can send it to you again, but I just wanted to raise the issue now, given the fiscal year 27 budget situation. You're gonna have to be creative about controversial things.
We will for sure.
Pay for their own buses.
On the creative part is we're looking at what size vehicles maybe they could be using.
Right, because they don't pay anything, right?
They don't. They do pay rider as well though.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
But I'll revisit the.
So they pay for transportation. You don't get it. A cut of that.
Taxpayer money.
Yeah, they don't individually pay for it.
Yeah.
But our kids do.
Yeah.
Okay. Another mission.
Secondaries, yeah, the secondary.
The secondary.
7 through 12, yeah.
All right, moving on to.
O'Hara.
Sure.
The Asbestos Health Emergency Remediation Act. We are entering a contract with a new vendor, Panani. The contract with the prior vendor, we're not going to continue, and we're going to continue. We're going to enter in contract with Panani. We found that some of the reporting. We found that some of the reporting, the DLS through the vendor, was not timely, and so we have to report certain things to DLS on trainings we have.
Department of Labor Standards.
Thank you, Department of Labor Standards. On trainings we have to have surveillance done every 6 months. We have to have every 3 years. The books that are at the buildings updated. The books have to be publicly available to the public. We have to have certain signage. If any work is done in the building by a vendor, they have to make sure that they're trained in dealing with asbestos. So we weren't thrilled with the prior contractor with this work. So we're entering into a 3-year contract with Panani, and they've already helped us to get back on track with our reporting.
Great.
Any other questions about that? No. Moving on to the website.
So it was a question somewhere, might have been at a meeting of the whole about the website. So the contract is up this year. It was roughly 28,000 annual.
Startup, yeah.
Yep. So we had the initial startup, but the annual maintenance of it's been 28,000. We were looking at it from simply a proprietary standpoint of the cost to go to a new website. Kelly Powers, who really manages the website, is very happy with the vendor. So we want to continue with it, but we had to navigate the procurement of it. So we are doing 30B
Exemption.
and
software.
for maintenance software. So we can continue, I guess, the long story short, we can continue through negotiation with Final Site.
Correct.
For another 3-year contract.
Great.
We're just waiting on quotes.
Just waiting on quotes.
From just them, or do we get quotes from him? Or
Just them.
just them?
No, because we can't, because it would be a whole new platform.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, moving on to fiscal year 26 budget. Athletic team coverage.
Yes, so we're asking, sharing, I wasn't sharing the screen. My fault. Talked about the grant. Talked about the acceptance of the gift. 5-year, here we go. All right, we usually review rates, whether they're sub rates, ESY rates. We do it once a year, but we also bring to you rates as needed for updating. So now that our Krista, our athletic director, gotten through her first season, she's looking at winter season. And when we did our posting for winter, or preparing our posting for winter, she noticed a couple areas where she'd like to recommend changes. So the first was for ice hockey. The site admin would get 75, and I'm looking at Jeremy to make sure I have that right.
Yeah, $75. It was at 50 previously, and just looking at the other, excuse me, the clock and the crowd, it just made sense that that should be 75. And then if it's a Saturday night game, that's more involved, from my understanding. So that was a $75 rate, so we moved that up to 100. And she's continuing to look at this process. I think we made some good progress last year. And up some of this, and also trying to get consistency based on what the needs are at the different events. And so she'll continue to look at this throughout this winter season, spring season, and she may come back, or we may come back with some suggestions. Yeah, some updates.
So I know it's only $25 a game, but what adjustments budgetarily does that have?
She could probably answer that. I can ask her, but I think she was factoring in her budget as compared to what the rate is versus what it should be. I think it was, again, she has it right. So,
Yeah.
but she has a recommendation on what it should be. And so you posted this already, right? I think you posted the stipend already.
Correct.
Yep. But it is in her, it's definitely her budget, within the budget to be able to.
It is what's in there, so she doesn't have to make a note.
No, so she's looking at that, and she had room in her budget.
Okay.
And also she's kind of looking at what other
Yeah.
rates are out
Yeah.
there and what's being, so she's
Comparison.
looked at different variables, and she's also she has some other ideas that she may introduce moving forward. So this was just kind of her first little step in the process.
That's great.
And this is in the absence of her, Principal Monahan, at an event. And I think every athletic event I went to this fall season, she was there.
Yeah, no, I saw her.
Yeah.
And we went to.
Yeah. The soccer.
Saw her at everything.
So
Yeah.
I factored that into, it's like, I'm at this game.
Yep.
I have this money to use for this game. So I think that was factored in her change for the winter.
Nice.
Moving on to fiscal year 27 budget planning.
Okay. As we do every year, as we get into the budget planning for the next fiscal year, we send out a memo to all the principal and cost centers. We have our 20 cost centers, 2021, 20 cost centers, making sure you're awake. We have our 20 cost centers, which is comprised of 11 buildings, and then departments such as transportation, special ed, maintenance, tech. We have a district budget. And so we meet in January through budget hearings and go over the needs, staffing, and stuff. And so we just give them some guidance each year. And we talk about, budget goals. This year, the big budget goal is really our budget scenario, which I'll touch on in a moment. And then from the budget hearings, we'll develop our district budget and go through the process here. So every cost center will come before you guys in the month of January and February. But we just want to share with the committee the memo that we send to staff. We also, I think the blog today gave you guys the mayor's memo. Which also I'll talk about in our scenarios. And that's asking town departments, schools, police, fire, DPW, library, asking town departments to start to develop their FY27 budget, anticipating a 1% in revenue increase, meaning a 1% increase in our operating budgets from FY26.
When was the last time that we had something so low?
20,
18?
no, 2021 was low operating increase, but we had all the SR.
Oh, the SR and opera, not, but
But to Mel's, as Mel mentioned, it was prior to that, it was, I think, probably be going back to the 08, 09 downturn in the economy, which trickled down and hit the 10 and 11 town budgets. I think those were the low years, 10, 11, 12. Which then, going big picture again from the budget locally, there's lots of advocacy that's going on. So November 18th, we got a letter. The superintendents were all copied on a letter that people across the state signed in advocacy. And just some of the areas that the state will be looking at is strengthening special ed circuit breaker, fixing the Chapter 70 inflation cap, fully reimbursing transportation costs, increasing rural school aid, mitigating charter school and non-traditional public schools, and making targeted investments in staffing and programs needed to support mental health. So that's the advocacy that's happening at the state level. The IG's office, the Inspector General for the state, has gotten involved this year. They'll be looking at two areas specifically. The first area the IG's office is looking at is the rate setting of tuition for special ed, for OSD, that sets the rate for schools, based on out of district schools. So looking at the tuition setting process. So that's one area the IG's office is looking at. And the other area the IG's office is looking at, which I mentioned earlier, is transportation. Really trying to understand, especially when it comes to special ed transportation, we see costs upwards of, we have our amazing van fleet in district that does a lot of our transportation, but we do have to go outside of Weymouth to get transportation. And, we sometimes see quotes of $250 plus a day. So the IG's office is really honing in on that procurement and bidding and contracting. So we completed a survey recently with the IG's office on special ed transportation and regular ed transportation. And we're hopeful that the IG's office can help, support, give us guidance, because it's been one of our biggest and most volatile costs is transportation over the last several years. So that's what the IG's office is doing. And then keeping with the IG, Jeff Shapiro, the Inspector General for the state, just issued today his own report of the Brockton Public Schools FY23 $18 million deficit from 2 years ago. And so we started reading through that today, just hoping that we can continue to do what we do well here and learn from some of the things that happened in other cities and towns in the last few years with budget deficits. So I encourage this is the public document. You can Google probably Office of Inspector General Massachusetts and get a copy of the report dated December 3rd, 2025. And again, it's a continuation of investigating Brockton Public Schools.
Social News just put it out today too. I just shared it out. When they talk about the out of district tuition, did they talk also about what it would cost to keep that student in district? So like the comparison of what we would need budgetarily to keep that student versus the tuition. Like, is that something that's looked at too?
But in this,
have they talked about if they fix that tuition and they start to look at those cases and say these students should go back in district, right? Are they looking at
the cost?
We would need to increase our budget here.
We would.
Right.
If that's the case, because
Because we can't fund
we
it.
can't, we
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah. Correct.
We can't service that person appropriately if they're coming back. We wouldn't go out of district if that was the case. As many people think is, parents enjoy
Yeah.
that students out of
I don't
district.
know if they're
I
really
don't,
looking into
so.
that. Yeah,
They're not, but it's something that we
they're
should be
looking at
thinking
the
about.
tuition for the most part.
Because we could come back and say, listen, that's great that you want to not increase the tuition, but people are gonna start sending their kids back if they're not getting service correctly there too.
And I think what sparks their interest is that the OSD sets the rate, which is odd anyways. Why doesn't DESI set the rate? And even though OSD sets a rate, some schools are coming in with add-ons on top of that. So the OSD is saying, whatever, 3.04 is the number I think for next year. But yet some schools are putting in additional costs and
Bumping it up.
bumping that number up.
Any questions from the committee?
The only other thing is just
OSD stand for? Operational Services.
Yep. Operational Services Division. Thank you. Yep. And before I come back to our scenarios, I do want to just touch on the scenarios each meeting because we want to make sure people are aware of the scenarios and seeing the changes in the scenarios. The only other thing I just want to is just footnote all of this conversation is as we talk about budgets and scenarios for next year, lingering in the background is also the idea of Department of Ed being eliminated at the federal level and what that could be implications for, Mel and Alyssa, I were talking earlier that it'd be statewide, right? If something happened with Title I and it was reduced by 25%, that would be statewide. So it'd be a state problem. But we still have to understand that the full exposure for us could be $500,000.
And absolutely zero rights to special education families.
Yes,
It's
right.
zero. So it's not just impacting financially, it's impacting the community, it's impacting
Yep.
families. It would be absolutely heartbreaking if that happened.
So like Brian was saying, we have kind of these three budget scenarios, but then of course there'll be another piece that we would be ready to take care of.
Yeah. Any other questions from the committee?
Well, Jim,
Anything more, Brian?
I did, thank you. I'm going to jump in. I just want to, again, go through I'm going to move this guy. Here we go. So again, Mel and we've shared out the last couple of meetings, our budget scenarios. The first one, level service budget. It's really our maintaining existing budget and staffing and programming and adding in compliance needs. So we did our forecast last meeting, talked about that. So we're forecasting for 27 a 3.87% increase. You add on top of that the additional positions we've added this year for compliance, 12.1 positions totaling almost $400,000. So already we're starting at, and the positions are linked up in here. We've talked about last meeting, the position. So this scenario is our estimated level service number plus our compliance added this year. Again, that number, it will change as we go through the process because we're basing the level service on the forecast. Once we start to build the budget through the cost centers, we'll actually have a level service budget that we present.
Can we add in when you guys do this for the compliance positions?
Yep.
What percentage, I know this wouldn't be totally accurate, but what percentage would be reimbursable? What would come back
Oh, the
with the
position?
circuit breaker? Because we could show the difference also
Yeah,
that we're not fully funding the circuit breaker too.
yeah, what potentially.
Could be.
We'd have to do
If what's hitting the threshold, I mean, we know it's not gonna be an exact number,
Yeah, it would be based on the.
but it would be a
Divide
general,
fee and then-
yeah. A general number would be good, because then we could also advocate when we go to the state level to say, you're not funding circuit breaker for us to even level service.
Right.
Yes, I hear you
Right,
saying.
yeah.
Yep, Alyssa and we'll talk with Meg on how we can calculate a number
Yeah.
to make it part of it.
Given me some general numbers, so I know she
Yes.
we can
Yeah.
push it out.
Yep. All right, we'll definitely do that. And then, so the next scenario we talked about is the strategic investment budget. And that's adding things such as expanding social emotional supports, STEM, adding back assistant principals, lowering class sizes. So all these items would be included in the strategic investment plan. That comes with a price tag of just under $95 million, which would be a $4.7 million increase to our budget of 5.28%. And then the third scenario is if we do receive a 1% increase in our budget, there'd be a shortfall. So I think it's important. So when we talk about budgets and planning for next year, we're not talking deficits, because deficit means you're overspending what you've been allocated. What we're talking about is budget shortfalls. So the funding, I know it sounds semantics, but it does mean something to talk about shortfall versus deficit. So we're projecting a shortfall of $3 million if we get revenues equaling 1%. That makes sense, people. So, and what that includes is, in order to address the $3 million shortfall, we'd have to do reductions. And the last one I added here recently, just based on conversations, is increase. I know no one likes increases in fees, but I think we have to bring to the table drastic considerations for increases in fees to be part of the conversation. If we're doing our jobs, we're bringing all scenarios to the table here. So we're developing, Melissa and I are looking at what a drastic 10 to 20% increase in fees would be. We have to look at it because we have to know the impact of it, because, as of today, right now, given the information we're given from the town, we're looking at a $3 million shortfall.
And I don't think even if we increased fees, it's not going to come up to 3 million.
Oh,
No.
It's going to be like
Piece of it.
a tiny piece of it.
And we've
What
cut,
do- oh,
sorry,
all right, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and think about the context of that cut, 3 million. We cut 1.9 last year. We cut, I think, 1.2 the year before. So it's more than we've cut the last 2 years.
And I think it's important putting in the increase in fees because the what ifs. So if we cut here, what are we doing here? I think it's important to put, for transparency reasons, to put it all out on the table.
Yeah.
Would we then start fees for some of the things that don't, like for theater and all that? Would we then implement fees for them?
Everything's going to be open.
We're open.
Everything's going to be
Right, so I mean, it would only be,
Equitably, it would make sense.
right, equitably, it would be, yeah,
So
if you're in a club, you pay a fee.
being mindful too that the school system is personnel heavy. We can't just take that away, cutting, reducing staff. That's 90% of our budget is people. So my question, another fun fact is that we're in the middle of negotiations for many units. So that's not even considering what that could impact if we can't come to, a good contract that we can live with in that means. What does it look like for if we are reducing staff, if we have to reduce staff or even eliminate staff? What is that time frame? Like, when would we have to make that obligation? Is it by April? Is it by
The
May?
latest,
The latest?
Jeremy, you want to touch on that?
Yeah.
There's language that we would have to, I think we got to notify people by June 15th in terms of.
Because I just don't want to go
I'd have to
what
look
Whitman
at all
Hanson did and get 2 months into the school year and then find out that we have to lay off 25 teachers
For next school year.
for next school year because we're just not being that mindful. And
Yeah, there's a lot of contractual dates that we would have to adhere to, but it all would happen mid to late spring in terms of those decisions. Obviously, we'd want to get out in front of it as early as possible.
well, yeah, and so that just puts more pressure on us to make a decision what that's going to look like. And it's just all timing.
And I think the pitfalls to avoid are exactly what Alyssa and Brian are showing with all of these projections, right? That's the pitfall, is when you underestimate the costs of next year, right? So we're constantly looking at these numbers. If we hire so much as a 0.3 staff member, that goes right there. We're all sitting down at the table saying, okay, we're hiring a 0.3 staff member. What does that look like at this table? What category does that fall into? So
Right.
all of the work happening now for next year's budget, so that we have great projections for what will really, when they present and we present a budget, we feel confident that that's what we're spending minus whatever we're adding throughout the year.
And to Danielle's point of view that, the unforeseen mandates that could pop up in August.
Well, that's the
So
federal money we don't really have.
Yeah.
you don't have
The
a
timing is
choice.
not great when we would find out. if
Right.
we Don't have the entire
Yeah.
grants.
And like we did the last 2 years, because we're talking about people's livelihoods, right? We don't take that lightly at all. We will continue, like we did the last years, to sit with the union and talk through JLM. I mean, we actually talked about last meeting, making sure that they're aware that we're going to continue to meet with them, and talk to them, and talk about, dates and timelines and seniority, and talk about all these things. So that way we're not making last minute rash decisions.
And I want to say I appreciate you guys' work all on this and being transparent about it, because we weren't in the same position a few years ago.
Mhm.
And I do feel like we're more prepared and we know more than we did going in the last time. Just let's continue that, open dialogue of knowing what's going on. So when we get questions, we're able to answer them too.
And that's not to say, just so Gus hears this, we're not going to ask for what we need, what we want. That's not going to say that we're going to still do that, but we're being prepared and being smart about it.
While still protecting people too.
Yeah.
We don't want to call someone out that they're not going to have a job 2 weeks from now.
Right, because just to maintain what we have now, right? Just to maintain what we have now, if we get 1%, that's the $3 million cut.
Yeah.
Right, so to your point, Tracy.
Right.
We'll ask for what we need, but we have to be realistic.
It's a
I'm
bummer.
gonna open it up to the public now.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ben.
That's $10 to sit there.
The meat raffle will be next week.
Thanks.
You take that now? Thank you again for this and keeping us updated. My question comment goes back to kind of, again, talking about what we need, making sure the town council and the mayor's office has a full understanding of what we need. I think one of the things that's been going through my head is, we've been seeing an increase in compliance needs year over year. Obviously, that's necessary and has to happen. But one of the things that I'm curious if we're keeping a levelish budget, like let's say we were able to keep a levelish budget, as we've seen over the past couple of years, as compliance increases, something else has to decrease to maintain that level budget. And that comes at the expense of certain programs or certain topics or STEM or STEAMs, things like that. And so the reason I say that is now looking at this where we are still going to meet our compliance needs because we have to, but we're now facing a potential shortfall and a revenue crisis is what I would love personally to see a strong kind of showing of is what does this mean in terms of outcomes and outputs to, so like if cuts happen, but what does this actually mean? How does this tie to our scores? How does this tie to the metrics by which we measure our town and our public school system? And from the mayor's office perspective, for the town council's perspective, what does this, it's obviously it's people's lives. So there's that metric. Obviously it's people's livelihoods and the ability for our children to interact with them. But we are facing a situation where we're trying to figure out too, like over the past years, we've been funding more, but the Weymouth, we're trying to increase the sense of belonging. We're trying to increase our scores to get kind of beyond this, lowish area in comparison to a lot of other places in the state. So what does this now mean? So when we go and say, do we have to do a 1% increase? Okay, we do. But not only does this mean this in terms of staffing positions, in terms of students, in terms of faculty, this also means this is connected to all of these outcomes, which everyone has been looking closely at for many years. And many of them we're not satisfied with. That's part of the thing, I think, in messaging and talking to the broader town. I would love that story to shine a little bit, and so that it is the people, and this is as I'm sure you all are well aware, education is a long-term investment. So it's very hard to pitch that in a society that's so focused on immediate results, but like these do have ramifications.
Sure.
And
And
will have
a
long-term.
student that is used to being in a classroom of 16, going to be in a classroom of 25.
Yeah.
Their education is going to be in jeopardy.
Mhm. And exactly. And I think, in this room, we all kind of get that. But forgive me if I'm sounding a little cynical. I'm not convinced everybody else understands that we have to talk to through this whole
And
process.
it's really depending from here, you're expanding on the impacts of these here, right?
Yeah.
And
And I just want to clarify, compliance does not take away from our budget. Because remember, part of compliance is reimbursable.
Right.
The problem is we're not getting reimbursed
Okay.
at the appropriate threshold for those compliance positions. So it's not like nobody's education trumps anybody else's, regardless of what they need to reach that curriculum. The core issue is reimbursement and circuit breaker and chapter 70. That's the issue. It's not that we're deciding you can't have something because we have so much compliance. It's we don't have funds from the big man at the house.
Understood. And I will back up and apologize because I didn't mean to.
I don't think,
Okay.
I want to clarify.
I appreciate it because I didn't want to make it sound that what I was more getting at, like the zero sum game of it all, of the give and take. And if we aren't getting the right reimbursement, what can exhibit itself as we have a level, we're staying the same, may not actually be that way.
Right.
And it's just making sure that messaging gets across.
Like you were saying, Ben, we'll start to expand after we go through the cost centers. Like when we look at the reductions budget, it will start to get a little bit more detailed, right?
Yeah.
Like, does that mean AP programs? Does it mean what special programs?
Yeah.
What fees will be increased? So people will start to see things kind of come to light of if we're trying to get to a number of 2.5 million to 3 million, what does that look like in our schools?
Thank you, Ben.
Appreciate it.
Ben,
Anybody else?
Ashley.
I can't see her, sorry.
Better, thank you. I just have a few questions. I'll start with the less serious one first. The Pingree support staff that you guys were looking for, how's that going?
Jeremy, this is the ABA.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking, there's so many different moving parts right now. The ABA at Pingree, I believe that's still open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is still open, but actually I do have an update. Yeah, we just found a strong candidate, just went through the reference checks. And the hiring process is underway now. So we make an offer on that for that candidate. And so I would anticipate, as a matter of fact, we sent out an offer today. So I would anticipate we should be up and running pretty soon. Great conversations were had.
Cool. Now, once you hire that person, I remember you guys saying that you need to bring it to town council for approval for the add to the budget. So is that how that works? The person first, then the approval from town, or?
Good question.
Yeah.
So, good question. So we brought it here. And then the next step for funding was to bring it to council. However, where did I have it? I have it here. So we actually had an open maintenance position.
Yeah.
We cut funding to it for this year and next year. And we're taking that funding to fund this position.
So you took from maintenance to,
An open maintenance position where we cut the funding, we're not filling the position here next year, and we shifted the funds. So we do no longer have to go to town council to get.
I see.
Position.
That in a maintenance in a building or
It was
grounds?
an open carpenter position.
So how does that affect the maintenance department and their like workload?
So we have two staff members that are taking on the additional work to cover that.
I don't think the position for a while.
It's been open.
It's been open.
It's been
for
tough to
quite
fill.
some time.
It's been a tough position to fill just because of,
So it's not like you're going to
It's a
see
case.
an impact right away because no one's been in that position.
and it has to be a licensed, carpenter with a builder's license to the state. So we have two on staff and, they came forward, so we are not funding that position this year or next year.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious, like, what is the mayor's office dealing with that they can only give us the 1%? I know that last year they, like, trash fees had to be increased. Like, they obviously have a perspective inside to their own story. I'm sure if they had the money, they'd give it. So just curious, like, what kind of conversations are happening there about what's kind of on their.
I think their memo,
Less revenue.
their memo focused on less revenue, in particular,
You got
new
the-
growth.
Did you get the memo?
I don't know. Wait, maybe.
It's on the blog.
It's on the blog. Yeah.
Okay.
She doesn't have the blog.
Oh, she doesn't have a blog.
Oh,
I can't get into the blog, actually.
Forward it to you.
Can't.
I'll send it.
All the thing is it's a locked thing that I can't get into. I don't know why. All right, if I got a ping, I get a ping.
home, but I can get on my laptop.
I can't get on my iPad. I can get on my laptop, but I can't get on my phone, my iPad that was issued from here. Because I'm locked out.
and if you think about the new growth that's happened so the unprecedented economic growth and the new growth has allowed us for the last 10, 12 years, we've been getting roughly 4% increases a year. I think the biggest driver, if chief of staff were sitting here, of the proposed 1% is looking at projected revenues for next year and the slowing down of new growth.
Okay. Are all the other departments in the same boat?
Every department's being asked to prepare a 1% budget.
They all get the same memo.
Okay. Has anybody brought up an override yet?
No.
No.
It'd be nice.
Well, I have my own thoughts on overrides that I'll keep to myself at this very moment, but I was just curious if it was brought up. All
I think
right.
it's early in the discussion too.
Yeah. I think a couple towns tried it, but didn't get it.
I think statewide, we're seeing we've actually looked at data from the last 30 years and it's cyclical and you see the increase in the overrides as the economies go down. So we are seeing, I think it's doubled and tripled in the last 2 years, the number of overrides across the state.
Yeah.
Attempted or.
Attempted.
Yeah,
That's the word.
Attempted.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Gus.
Thank you. First, I want to commend the group. We're not going to be a Whitman-Hanson situation. We're not going to be a Brockton situation because of the great job that Brian and Alyssa and the team do. The transparency that continues to get better and better every single year. So, there's not going to be a surprise like that. It's going to get dropped on the table in this environment. So, kudos for doing that. Additionally, I also want to recognize the efforts of the chair. I know that there's been a lot of postings out I'm not a Facebook guy, but people share things with me in terms of trying to inform the public, and more people are here this evening. I think as a result of that, and we talked about that at the last meeting, these communications need to continue to happen because parents with kids in the schools in particular need to understand what this really means. And, fiscal year 26 was to the penny. To the dollar, to the penny. That's the way the budget was described. There's no other place to go. And so in terms of cutting things, you're talking about staff cuts. And if you're talking about a $3 million shortage, I'm sure you're already looking at it, and I'm sure you're already taking a look and having conversations with the union about what these potential implications are. But I think the public needs to understand the potential significance of the numbers of staff that could be potentially at risk, and not to wait, obviously, till the contractual dates that require that drive the notifications to the specific individuals under the CBA. But as the budget is being developed, you know, if you just look at it like this, you have to come up with 3 million, you can't find it elsewhere. Just using $100,000 salary, that's 30 people. That's 30 people. And obviously that's not a real number, right? Because it would be cutting, and you wouldn't be cutting 30 at 100K. You'd be looking at lots of other salaries and positions and all that kind of stuff. So the actual number could be significantly shocking to people who are starting to come to the community and pay attention. My suggestion is that you do have to send that message as soon as possible. Whatever the plans are right now in terms of what the ultimate budget cuts are, and nothing's going to change. The 1% budget is going to be the fiscal year 27 limit. That's it. There's no magic dollars that are going to appear from the state for fiscal year 27 anyways. There's no magic dollars that are going to appear from town hall. If they, as we discussed at the last meeting, are saying a 1% budget, that is the ugly reality.
Yep.
And I implore you to keep doing what you're doing, but take it a step further and put the ugly truth out there about if it's 1%, we've got a $3 million shortfall. Fiscal year 26 was to the penny. There's no place else to go. They all need to understand, and parents around the community need to understand what this means for their third grade teacher, for their high school teacher, for their AP program teachers, for their fifth grade teacher, for their middle school teacher, for paras across the district in terms of those staffing eliminations, because you have to put it out there. You're being very transparent. I always commend you for that, but I just implore you to just be extra transparent relating to what the truth is about what these implications are. Thank you.
Thanks, Gus.
I think it's a good point on the staff. We're a staff of 1,100, 1,200. And using that calculus, Gus, it could be, use that same, it's not gonna be the 100,000, but if it could be 45, we don't know yet, but to the extent we get that information, we will obviously share with the committee.
Cindy, did she leave?
I think she left.
One more parent.
Who's it?
One more parent reason.
Come on up. I can.
Have to come up.
Yeah. Unless you want to yell.
I am not a numbers person, so coming here is like a little I'm a picture person and a storyteller. So
And a really good mom.
I think what you said about, telling the story and also getting more community involved and people knowing what's going on. If there's anything you need from us, I'd just like to offer my help.
Yeah, we're going to be advocating
And so to your point about, I'm a visual person, so
Yeah.
talking about numbers I can do, but we do I think a very good budget book that we start to develop through this process. So we're early in the process, but we're being very transparent and open about numbers. So when we do get into the budget season, and usually in February, we start to develop our budget presentations that give a lot of visuals. So we'll continue to do that. So, but thank you for the call.
and we're going to need a lot of creative thinkers too.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Corey Robinson.
Jonah's mom. Just write that.
Okay.
But we're going to need creative thoughts about where we can make these cuts and where we can raise the money. We're going to have to be really creative.
All right. Anybody else?
Those meat raffles.
I did those buses instead of buses.
We're gonna run out of
I wanted to.
But
houses.
it's funny that you mentioned meat raffles, because at an upcoming policy meeting, probably in January, Lindsay's going to be bringing forward that the state has really honed in on games of chances in raffles and making sure school committee policy aligns with raffles. And
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Because we're rolling in the dough. Take away meat wrap.
I go
to the state house about it, like.
Yeah.
Ability to raise.
That's a priority. Priority.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. So the other point is related to the timeline. We know it's and that's ugly. But what we don't know is how much more the state's going to be asking of Weymouth for fiscal year 27, because the cherry sheets are not out yet.
January, right?
And so not till January are we not going to know what our local required contribution is supposed to be. Fiscal year 27 was a 5% increase over fiscal year 25. That was almost $5 million. If they go through the Chapter 70 calculations, this could get worse if all of a sudden they determine that in fiscal year 27, Weymouth has got to increase their local contribution by 5% again. So it's gonna be telling once we get the numbers
point.
from the state in January, but this could get actually worse.
Yep, good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
One thing to say, coming from me, the increases, yeah, I get it, including for everybody, right? I understand. So I may be backtracking.
I was waiting for you to bring that up. I was like,
I may be backtracking on comments that I've made in these meetings in the past, but reality is reality. You want 600 people in here, just say that athletic programs are gonna be cut.
Yeah,
But nice segue for timeline. Thank you, Gus. So we are December 3rd.
nothing in the room last.
Next meeting, next public meeting, January 14th. Usually around this time, you start to hear state numbers. So the governor's budget usually comes out around that time. The governor's initial budget has process to the House Ways Means. Their process runs concurrent with ours, which is problematic in some respect, but we'll start to get initial chapter 70 money projections, charter school reimbursement funds, other funding sources. So that'll be May by that January 14th, but definitely by the January 21st. We have some state numbers to start to talk about as well.
thank you. That's it. I'll open it up for public comment, but I think everybody's good. All right, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, everybody.
Give me a second.
Yep.
Second.
Don't forget tomorrow's picture day.